Welcome to our NFL picks against the spread, brought to you by us here at Sportsnet for you via YouTube. And it is week number 12. It's a pretty tough week, especially with survivor picks and ones that maybe are left if you are lucky to be still in a survivor pool. We'll get to that later, but let's start with the games. And I'm not really sure I feel great about any of the games this week.
No, it's a really tough slate. And I felt like the later we get into the season, the more predictable these games will be. We'll see the identities of a lot of these teams, but especially this first game that's coming up, we really don't know what either of these teams are.
Well, let's start right there. The first game, the Thursday nighter, which makes it even tougher to handicap. Houston hosting the Indianapolis Colts. Houston is the favorite by 3.5 points. That line has actually moved from 5.5 early, which is interesting. If you told me that either of these teams would be favored, I wouldn't be that surprised. Are you surprised Houston is the favorite considering how they looked against Baltimore?
I guess it's the home factor. Because, that was the worst performance we've seen from the Texans under Deshaun Watson so far. His biggest loss in maybe since high school. We don't even know if he lost that big then. The guy is a winner, and that's what made Sunday so shocking. They just no-showed, and he no-showed. Some of the plays that he made were so uncharacteristic. It goes to show just where the Ravens are right now compared to a lot of other teams in the league. But this is a huge game. The loser of this game could find themselves on the outside of the playoff picture depending on what the Raiders do when they go to New York this week.
Who ever thought you'd be saying that?
That's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
We'll get to more on the Raiders later, but I think this game is going to be close. I think these teams are going to play each other close. They have done that all year long. The loss on Sunday was the first loss of Deshaun Watson's pro career that was more than 7 points. And the Colts have just been involved in so many tight games, field goal games, that this screams to me being a field goal game. So I'm going to take the Colts, even though the Marlon Mack injury has me a little worried. Jonathan Williams, but he had a good game on Sunday. So that could be a factor, but I like the Colts to keep it tight.
I'm going to actually pick Houston. The Marlon Mack injury really, really worries me. It's a toss-up between him and Jacoby Brissett, who their MVP is.
Yeah.
But I think he's their best player.
I think so.
And with Jonathan Williams, who, low-key, if you're still alive in your fantasy pool, for the most part am not, would be a nice pickup because he's going to get a lot of run.
Spend that fab money on Jonathan Williams.
Exactly.
Right,
because Hines at this point of his career is just a third down back. He's just a pass catcher as a running back.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to be able to withstand how decimated they are in terms of their wide receiver depth due to injury. Now their best offensive player in Williams is hurt. Houston's defense just looked terrible against the Ravens, but the fact that Indianapolis is missing some of their offensive firepower, I'm going to lean with the Texans, who have been a much better team at home. Specifically, Deshaun Watson has been much better at home than they've been on the road. So 3.5 points, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, we should note, I looked this up yesterday just to see what this rivalry stands at. In the last 3 times the Texans have hosted the Colts have won. So that's kind of a streak that the Texans will be hoping to break on Thursday night.
For sure. On Sunday, one of the many 1 o'clock games. I feel like there's barely any 4 o'clock, 4:25 kickoffs.
2 or 3, and 2 of them matter, maybe 1.
Denver goes to Buffalo in a game that won't matter for Bills fans. The Bills are favored by -4. That actually started as well at 5.5, and 68% of the public is with the Buffalo Bills. Are you?
I guess I have to wait until you pick this game before I decide, because whatever you do here, the opposite will happen.
Yes.
So I will wait. But we talked about the Bills here last week, and I was critical of the Bills because they weren't running the ball, and Josh Allen threw it way too many times. Yeah. He still threw it a lot on Sunday, but they had a dominant game against the Dolphins, and they did run the ball. They ran the ball 26 times between Gore and Singletary, and then Allen had 7 of his own. So they ran the ball. Allen probably had his best game as a pro, which was something that they needed really badly against. The Miami team is bad, but they had been showing up against teams, so that's a good win for the Bills, and they need this win too, because if they lose to the Broncos, they've got the Cowboys and they've got the Ravens coming up. Both of those look like losses. You can't afford to drop another one here. But like I said, I can't really pick until I know what you're going to do, because this is a real thing. Well, this is happening every week.
It's crazy. But also what's crazy is, what Bronco team are we going to see? The team in the first half against the Vikings that was up 20, or the team that relinquished that lead against the Vikings? And so in the battle of Allens, Brandon Allen versus Josh Allen, I'm going to lean with Josh Allen at home. And he is the better player, the better quarterback on the better team. So they should cover at home. I apologize, Bills fans. I apologize.
You've also put me in a really tough spot. But I'm going to take the Bills, too. I can't take Denver here, especially after they blew that lead. Like, they're not going to have another half of football like they had in Minnesota in the first half. Not another dominant half like that, and then they blew it. I think the real Broncos are the Broncos we saw in the second half against the Vikings, and so despite your pick, I have to take Buffalo, too.
Okay. We will see where you lie in this next game, where your Philadelphia Eagles Fly are hosting the other birds, the Seahawks, and they're favorites. They're 1.5 point favorites, and this line started at 3.5. The public loves the Seahawks in this spot, 71% of them. And it's interesting because Seattle obviously needs to win, because if they do, their future is in front of them. They could very well end up with the best record in the NFC, or they could very well, with a loss, end up a road team in a wild card game with 6 games left in the regular season. Philadelphia, they just need to keep things close in the NFC East, because they host Dallas later in the year. So a big game between two teams we expect to be in the playoffs. Where are you leaning?
It's really hard for me to pick the Eagles after seeing what we saw on Sunday, where they opened the game really well. They scored 10 straight points and were up 10-0, and then the last 42 minutes of the game couldn't score a point. And I think it's fair to criticize the lack of weapons and the lack of speed. The offense looks really slow, it slogs through games. But Carson Wentz missed some big throws, especially on that last drive, and so a lot of the blame needs to be laid at his feet, and a big portion of why they couldn't control that game was because Jordan Howard was out. If Jordan Howard is out again, I think the Eagles are in tough here, especially against Russell Wilson, who, unlike Wentz, is making all those plays when his team needs him to make those plays. So I like the Seahawks on the road with Russell Wilson being the difference maker, and also because they're 4-1 against the spread away from home this year, and they're undefeated on the road, the Seahawks. So everything points to Seahawks here. I'd be pleasantly surprised if the Eagles show up, but I'm really concerned about the offense.
I know this is going to hurt. I agree. And I'll just give it away. This is going to be my gold pick. Wow. And for a couple reasons, because I do expect the game to be close, but Seattle, coming off a bye, got more time to prep. Yes, they're going east, but they've been great going east this year. And we're looking at two quarterbacks who are really going in different directions. It wasn't long ago that we were talking about Carson Wentz being an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
Now Russell Wilson is the guy who is with Lamar Jackson in that MVP conversation. And for how long have we said, man, Russell Wilson is making plays despite the lack of receiver talent around him?
Right.
Now look at the receivers. Tyler Lockett is one of the best slot route runners in the game. DK Metcalf is a huge target, and they've had a week to work in Josh Gordon, who, if he's healthy,
he made some plays in that 49ers game too, right?
Yeah.
So
if he's healthy, can be a big part of that offense.
Yeah.
So I just see to quarterbacks to offenses going in different directions. So I love Seattle in this spot. I'm going to go with the Seahawks.
As an Eagles fan, Jadeveon Clowney scares the hell out of me because Jason Peters got hurt in that game. I think he came back, but Lane Johnson went out with a concussion, and he's going to probably be replaced by the rookie Andre Dillard. It's just, if he has a game like he did against San Fran, look out Carson Wentz.
True enough. Let's move to Carolina at New Orleans. And New Orleans provided us with that bounce back that we thought they would.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we should have this much confidence in them. They've had some big spreads this year, 9.5 points as they host Carolina in the division rival game. Who do you like? Because this line is actually moving. It started at 7, and it's now expanding to 9.5.
Yeah, I think the book is now out on Kyle Allen, and it's a tough read. Since starting 4-0, he's 1-3. He's thrown 3 TDs and 9 picks. 4 of them came against that vaunted Falcons defense. And he has a completion percentage of less than 59. He's been sacked 18 times, and his rating is 60.3 over the last 4 games. He has not been good. And so, I mean, aside from this game, I think the conversation about whether the Panthers should trade Cam Newton should be over. They should keep him. Anyway, the way the Panthers are playing, really the only weapon they have is McCaffrey. It's a great weapon, but it can't make up for the fact that their quarterback is bad. Their defense is bleeding rushing yards, despite having a pretty good pass defense. And the Saints at home, I know they didn't show up against Atlanta a couple weeks ago, but I just don't think this Panthers team is a contender.
Yeah, I think we saw in their performance last week that the Saints have woken up and they're back to play.
They are who we thought they were.
We thought they were, yeah, exactly.
But, they just had an off week. That happens.
And they got a monster rushing performance, not just by Latavius Murray, but also by Alvin Kamara. He started to look like the player we saw before the injury, and that's a big thing. And then if there is a non-quarterback who we could put in the MVP conversation, it might be Michael Thomas. Like, he's having that type of impact.
It's a historic season.
Yeah. And so for all of those reasons, and the fact that we previously talked about the Allen Bowl, the quarterback with the last name Allen, who's might be playing the worst football right now, is in this game.
It is, yeah.
So for all those reasons, I'm taking the Saints, even though 9.5 to me is a lot of points.
Yeah, and big spreads have not been kind to bettors in the last few weeks. But it's just so hard to think the Panthers are going to do any damage here.
Yeah. Let's go to another big spread. Miami at Cleveland. Cleveland is favored by -11. It's surprising to me given the fact that Miami actually, over the last 3 weeks, has played pretty good football and managed to pick up a couple wins.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see how the Browns bounce back from what happened on Thursday night with Myles Garrett. This is a team that we've seen be very undisciplined, and I think it'll just tell a lot about where this team is, whether they come back and they use that incident as a way to push them forward through what is a really easy schedule upcoming. If they win out, like, they'd be in the conversation. But then I wouldn't be entirely surprised if this team disintegrated under what happened on Thursday night. They were all very obviously upset by what happened. When it comes to picking this game, Miami, they got dominated by the Bills on Sunday, but weirdly enough, they've been really terrible at home against the spread, but really good on the road. They're 3-1 against the spread on the road this season. So I'm going to pick Miami for that reason, and because I still just don't trust the Browns. I just don't know which team we're going to get on a week-to-week basis.
I agree. To me, this pick is more about the Browns than it is the Dolphins. And wouldn't it be so very Browns to win a game in a big spot against a division rival? For the first time, you've beaten both the Steelers and the Ravens in one season, and you have your NFL playoff life ahead of you with the weakest schedule in the league. And then you can't even get out of that game without having your best player suspended for the rest of the year. And now, immediately coming off that, you lay an egg against arguably a team that is trying to lose in the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Dolphins have not done a great job at trying to lose because they've been a pretty good team.
Yeah, they've been really well coached.
Over the last month. The Bengals are now the new Dolphins.
Yeah.
And for those reasons, I think the Dolphins cover. I don't trust this Browns team to beat anybody by 12 points. Never mind the Dolphins, and especially without Myles Garrett. So I'm going to do something that I said early in the year I would never do.
But we've done a lot over the last 5 weeks or so,
We have,
right?
yeah. I'm going to pick the Dolphins in this spot. Let's see. Where should we go next? How about we break down the team that we talked about somehow in a real playoff race, making it difficult?
Yeah,
No,
in a division title race, too. You've been putting some heat on Kansas City.
True. Not the New York Jets, but the Oakland Raiders, who are on the road in the Meadowlands, but are -3 favorites, and 62% of the public likes the Oakland Raiders. Do you like them against the Jets?
I do, yeah. They didn't play a great game against Cincinnati, but they won. But it's been talked about a lot on NFL Twitter. I see it all the time, but you and I haven't talked about it a lot. But the Raiders draft class, their rookies have been amazing. I saw a tweet yesterday from AP's Josh Dubow who says the Raiders are the first team since sacks became an official stat to get 10 plus sacks from rookies and 10 plus TDs from rookies. Like they're just Max Crosby, their first round pick, Clelin Ferrell, Josh Jacobs, Foster Moreau, Hunter Renfrow, they're all having a big impact. And so credit needs to go to the GM and the coach there because they've done an amazing job. And when it comes to picking against the Jets, I feel like it's fairly easy. The Jets have shown us who they are. They're like a tier above the very worst teams, but they're not, going to compete against teams that are competitive. So for me, this is a fairly easy pick.
It is for me as well. I have a little bit of trepidation because Oakland is coming east. But, I mean, they've been everywhere. Were on the road for a month. Went to overseas. They came to Canada in the preseason.
Yeah, right.
So I don't think that going to New York is necessarily going to phase them. They've got a good run game. In as much as we make fun of John Gruden, they clearly have the advantage in terms of coaches in this matchup.
Yeah, for sure.
And they have the advantage because Sam Darnold hasn't taken a step this year. If anything, he may have regressed since coming back from mono, and Derek Carr has been solid.
Yeah, he's efficient.
Yes, and so for all those reasons, I like Oakland as the -3 favorites, even though they are on the road against the Jets.
Darnold could have a tough game. I think he's going to be under pressure a lot in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, and we really graded the trade the first Monday nighter when Khalil Mack just owned the game.
Yeah, it was already won by the Bears by that point.
It is. But, I mean, if the Bears aren't able to put a Super Bowl team around Mack because of their issues on offense, and the Raiders continue to stockpile, draft capital. And
now they could get a top 10 pick out of that Bears first rounder they got for Mack, right?
Yeah, so maybe we rush to judge that trade.
Shocking. That never happens.
Right, yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm not certain how to judge the quarterbacks for either team in this next matchup, and that's why I'm not really sure where to go or really who should be favored. Tennessee is favored. They're -3 favorites against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are going on the road. This is one of the few 4:05 kickoffs. Are you confident either way about this game?
Not really, no. I feel the exact same way that you do. That face that you just made is how I feel inside about this game. But I to be honest, I expected a lot more out of Nick Foles, and I guess that's unfair because he's coming back from, a pretty major injury and also has had no time to familiarize himself with this offense. So you can understand why he had some struggles, but the real problem with the Jags is the run game. They can't run the ball with Fournette. After a good start for him, they've really been bad over the last 2 games, but they can't defend against the run at all. They've been gashed a couple of times, and so based on what we've seen from Derrick Henry, he tends to have big streaks, like 2 or 3 games where he goes off, and he just had one of those before the bye. I expect him to have another one here. And Tannehill has brought something to the Titans offense that Mariota didn't, and it basically is, moving the sticks. So here I like the Titans based on the Jags' problems on the ground.
Yeah, Derrick Henry is becoming the player with some consistency that we thought he was going to be coming out of Alabama, and we kind of never really saw him put it together. He had a monster week every once in a while, and then he would be quiet for 3 weeks. Now that player is Leonard Fournette. He is, good for a couple touchdowns every once in a while, but overall he hasn't had a huge impact on what they're doing offensively, and so the inability to consistently run the ball for Jacksonville, but more importantly, the inability to stop the run on a defense that just a couple of years ago people were comparing to the Ravens defense that won Trent Dilfer a Super Bowl, has been really troubling. And for all those reasons, I think Tennessee at home gets the lead early, and then once they do, the game's kind of over.
Yeah, they're pretty stingy at home.
Yes. So I like Tennessee -3 for sure. The 4:25 Eastern game is Dallas at New England. You got a good look at the Patriots as they played your Eagles this past week. They are -6 favorites at Foxborough. Who do you like?
This is a really interesting game because it's basically the best passer in the game right now. I think Dak is that. The most yards per game. His average yards per attempt is through the roof. He's just playing better than he ever has, coming up against what is definitely the best pass defense in the NFL. And on Sunday, I watched the Patriots defense just smother the Eagles. They're just such a good defense. They do everything so well. And that's why I'll be interested to see what Jason Garrett does here. He's been criticized for being conservative, running the ball too much in spots where they should probably throw it with Dak. And he'll probably have to run the ball here in order to be effective against the Patriots. So 6, that's a big number. And I know it's the Patriots at home, but my gut feeling here is that the Cowboys can go into New England and at least compete against a team that the Eagles defense shut down. Tom Brady had a terrible game. He threw the ball more than 40 times, completed less than half or maybe a little bit more, and the Eagles were able to do what the Bills did a few weeks ago, get through the interior offensive line, make Brady scramble, which he's not fast or mobile, and so I can see the Cowboys putting up some points and at least competing, so I'm going to take Dallas.
As good as Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb, who came out of nowhere and is another low-key fantasy late ad that might help you win your league, as good as they were this past week against the Lions, Amari Cooper was basically absent. He wasn't starting many drives. He clearly doesn't look healthy.
Yeah, there's something going on there.
And one thing that Bill Belichick and the New England defense does is they take away whatever you're best at, and they make you play left-handed. Now, I'm fascinated to see, is it going to be Zeke in the running game? Are they going to stack the box? Or are they going to, with that great pass defense, say, Dak is playing the best. Over the last 16 games that he started, he's just under 5,000 yards passing. That will be fascinating. But either way, they are going to make the Cowboys play left-handed, and I just don't know that their offense against good teams is good enough, because they've beaten up on a lot of bad teams, including the Lions. And the Lions, who have the same defensive scheme as the Patriots, and so Bill Belichick will be watching film that he really understands. I don't think that's a recipe for success. And when Jeff Driscoll is being able to move the ball against your
puts
offense,
up 27 points. Yeah.
What is Tom Brady going to be able to do?
Well,
I know they've struggled,
I don't
but
know.
he's much better than Jeff Driscoll.
Sure, yeah. There's no denying that. It's just, if they can get some pressure on Brady, it really puts them in a bind. It'll be interesting for sure, because Dallas's defense is not playing well.
No.
So
yeah,
it's tough to pick against the Patriots at Foxborough.
Right.
But yeah, here we are. You're going to take New England though, yeah.
I am going to take New England. In the Sunday nighter, we've got Green Bay at San Francisco. Again, this could be a NFC Championship game preview. Aaron Rodgers is probably the best quarterback of this era in terms of arm talent. Jimmy Garoppolo, since getting to San Fran, all they've done is win when he is healthy. San Fran is -3 favorites in the game. Who do you like?
Garoppolo has played really great, and it's impressive that he was able to do what he did on Sunday, albeit against a really bad Cardinals defense. Without George Kittle, without Emmanuel Sanders, who played but was banged up. Matt Breida was out. They're not running the ball nearly as well, and he had a career game. So good for Jimmy G. I think he's showing people that, he is a legitimate starting quarterback. But it's Aaron Rodgers. It's Aaron Rodgers on Sunday night, and I just can't find a reason to pick against him despite, all the things I just listed. I just can't count out Aaron Rodgers in a big spot against, a rival NFC team.
Yeah, the team that he grew up watching as a kid, the Niners, being a California kid, idolizing Joe Montana and Steve Young. And if you're giving me Aaron Rodgers and you're giving me points, I'll certainly take it. And I also don't think that the 49ers are just going to run away and hide with the NFC. I think it's going to come down to the wire. That's the type of year it's been where we're going to be looking in the last 2 weeks of the season. And the Vikings,
there are too many
Packers,
good teams in
the
that
Niners,
division.
the Seahawks. They're all going to be there, potentially trying to win their divisions first and foremost, but also trying to get home field throughout the playoffs and at home. So for all of those reasons, I think the Packers do it at home. A team I'm actually surprised that I didn't put in that conversation, because if we were having this convo over the last 2 years, they would be there, are the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't been that dominant force. In fact, the Baltimore Ravens have in the AFC. I think they've been the best team in football, and it wasn't really a controversy in our NFL power rankings that we have here at Sportsnet, where we had them at the top. Having said all that, the Ravens are road favorites at -3 against Los Angeles. Does that scare you at all?
I said this last week, and it stands true after seeing him do it again against the Texans. I just can't pick against Lamar Jackson. The way that he's playing, like, he's throwing the ball really well. He runs better than anybody in the league right now. Running backs, quarterbacks, it doesn't matter. The guy sees the field better than anybody. The moves he has are unreal. He's fast. He's just unreal. And against a Rams team, the offense is broken. Like on Sunday night, Chris Collinsworth talked so much about how they were doing those double teams with the offensive line. And that means that they're doing things they don't want to do to fix a problem that they don't want to have. And Goff threw the ball 6 times in the first half. That's just not going to work against a Ravens team that's putting 40 burgers up, weekly. So until I see more from the Rams offense, their defense is playing really well, but that doesn't matter for Lamar Jackson and that offense that is so versatile. I just can't go with the Rams. We'll see about Brandon Cooks. It sounds like he might play. We'll see about Robert Woods. I don't know what was up with him, but I still add those guys. I still pick the Ravens.
Collinsworth, who is the most, I want to say, positive about football, it was like he was being tortured watching the Rams offense. He was struggling to get paid millions of dollars to sit there and tell us about how they were playing offensively. And I don't blame him. And can't you see it playing out where Marcus Peters in a big spot just picks Jared Goff and has a pick six? And the thing about the Rams defense is they have elite players. Aaron Donald is elite.
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey
is
elite.
Good. Yeah.
But after that, there's a huge gap in terms of the level of play from the rest of that defense.
Again, and so, Collinsworth wouldn't shut up about Corey Littleton, who is good, but how many times did they say cover linebacker on the Sunday night broadcast?
Yes.
It was ridiculous. It was laughable.
Well, he's a cover linebacker.
He's good.
He's not fast enough to be able to run with Lamar Jackson.
No.
And when you look at the run the Ravens are on, beat the Texans, beat the Seahawks, beat the Patriots. Yeah. And not just beat them, but beat them up. These are teams that all have Super Bowl aspirations. So for that reason, I'm very comfortable picking the Ravens to not just win, but to cover the spread, even though it's on the road.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's speed through a couple games that, let's be honest, aren't worth watching.
Yeah.
But if you want to bet on them, feel free.
Sure.
Bucks at Falcons, who do you like?
Falcons. They have the best defense in the NFL apparently now. So
yeah,
you know, they've just created a lot of turnovers, getting a lot of sacks against Jameis Winston. We all know.
Winston loves turnovers.
He does.
Yeah, I do like the Falcons, who have really improved. Evidently, Dan Quinn is fighting for his job. Giants at Bears, and Mitch Trubisky has a hip pointer.
Yeah.
Or may lose his job. Who do you like?
There's no way that I can take the Bears by 6.5 or 6, whatever it might be. If it's near that number, I can't take the Bears offense.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of picking the Bears in Survivor this week because the Giants are very good, and like I just can't do it. I
No,
can't.
don't do that.
I actually think they have a better chance of doing well this week if Trubisky isn't playing.
And maybe Chase Daniel's still bad.
True. This is a stay away game, but
Yeah.
if you have to pick someone, pick the Giants. Steelers at Bengals. This used to be a game that we really got excited for.
Sure, yeah.
Not anymore.
No.
Who do you like?
I'm going to take the Bengals, and it's mostly because the Steelers' offense was just so bad on Thursday night. They just had nothing.
Interesting. I'm going to take the Steelers. They've got 10 days to prep. I do think Mike Tomlin, who doesn't want to talk about the incident that happened after the game, I do think that he will be talking to his team about it. They'll be a motivated football team. Lions at the Washington football team. Who do you like?
Jeff Driscoll played well against Dallas, but this pick is more about Washington, which is just obviously a complete tire fire, so I will take the Lions.
Yeah, Detroit somehow has had the lead in every game they've played this year.
Yeah.
One of only
they're
3
plucky.
teams. So they are plucky. And Washington offensively are so bad that if Detroit gets the lead at all, it may be good enough to win the game outright.
Yeah.
So I will pick the Lions. That says I don't feel great about that, but there are a couple games that I do feel really good about, and I alluded to them earlier. We'll start with you. What are your best bets this week?
Bronze, I like the Falcons over the Bucks, just the way that they're playing, and like we said, Winston's going to turn it over. Silver, I'm picking the Seahawks plus 1.5 at my Eagles, and then gold, I like the Raiders to beat the Jets by 3.5.
Nice. I have where are they? So for my bronze, I'm actually going to go against my team, the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to go with the New England Patriots
By 6.
by 6 to cover at home. Maybe I'm just trying to reverse jinx it,
Yeah.
but
Part of you is for sure.
just Dallas is a total different team when they're playing against good teams.
Yeah. This is a prove it game.
Yes,
This is it.
no question.
Like, just hang tough.
Yeah, which I'm not.
I'd
certain,
rather they didn't.
Right, of course, as an Eagles fan,
Yeah.
you would, which I'm not certain they can do, but we shall see. Bronze, I'm gonna go with
Silver, you mean?
Or sorry, yes, thank you. Silver, I'm gonna go with the Texans. I don't feel great about what the Colts are going to be able to do offensively without Max, so I really like Houston. And then for gold, I alluded to it earlier, I really think Seattle is going to handle business against Philly.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're dogs, I really like, and plus 1.5. So those are my best bets. Survivor is really, really tough. I said it
It's
earlier.
an interesting week.
This is a tough weekend for whatever reason, because I like to give away my money. I actually was knocked out of Survivor and got in a buyback pool where you have to pick 2 games a week.
Okay.
So I'm scrambling.
Yeah.
Having said all that, what do you feel really good about?
I don't
this
feel
week?
really good about anything.
Fair.
And because most of the teams that I feel really good about, I've already picked.
Yes.
But I'm going to go with the Lions. Jeff Driscoll and the Lions at Washington. I just don't see Washington being competitive. The only points they scored last week were in garbage time. So I like the Lions to handle business in the Capitol.
So I am going to assume that most people have picked the Saints at this point, because I think that is the best bet on the board. It's the best guarantee of an outright winner. So assuming you haven't picked the Saints, Oakland. You got to pick them at some point.
Yeah.
Why not pick them against the Jets?
Sure.
I think this is a good spot for the Raiders to continue their run on potentially making the playoffs. So that's where I'm going with my survivor pick. But
Yep.
let
I
me
like
know. Raiders fans, you guys have been pretty vocal in the comments. What do you think about this team? What do you think about our picks? Good luck this week. This has been fun. Thanks for watching.